I am live here. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining me on the planet. My name is June Allen and I am the founder of The Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So today I want to talk to you about lying. Okay, I want to talk to you about lies. And I'm going to share 5 reasons why black people lie. Okay, why is it that black people find it difficult to tell the truth? Now I know white people lie as well, and they have a history of telling a whole heap of lies. Okay, but this live stream is specifically about why we as a community, why we find it so difficult to tell the truth, and there are loads of different reasons. Hi, thanks for joining. So I really wanted to share that. So for those of you that are joining that don't know me, that don't know anything about who I am and have never been to my broadcast before. So I'm a therapist, I'm a coach, I'm also a consultant, and the work that I do predominantly focuses on the healing within our community. I work predominantly with black women around their issues around the mother wound and their self-esteem and all of that kind of stuff. I tend to focus mainly on that sort of thing, but and I absolutely love what I do. I've been doing this work for quite some time now. I'm also in recovery. I've been in recovery since 2009. So anything to do with kind of like it wasn't specific. Can't speak. It wasn't specifically around substance misuse and stuff like that. My compulsive behaviours were all about being in relationships that were unhealthy and stuff like that. So I've been in recovery since 2009, working through that. I've also been doing this platform since I think it was it must be about 7 years now. I've been doing this platform 6-7 years, and I love it. I started sharing my own journey and I found it really, really helpful. And so for me to be able to give back what I've learned has been really, really great part of my journey. So that's a little bit of background about me if you've never been to one of my broadcasts before. So now let's get into it. Let's get into the conversation now. Why is it that black people find it so hard to tell the truth? So the first one is there's a responsibility that comes with telling the truth. Okay, there's a responsibility that comes with owning your truth. And I know that the word truth comes up a lot in when we talk about it's almost like a buzzword, isn't it, about speaking the truth and knowing the truth and owning the truth. But a lot of people, we talk about it in our community within the context of our history. Tell the truth about the fact that that our ancestors came from Kemet, and we talk about the lies that are told and how our history is whitewashed and all that kind of stuff. We can talk about the truth within that context, but when it comes to telling the truth about the impact of racism on our ability to exist as human beings, a lot of us find that a lot more difficult. Okay, a lot of us find that a lot more difficult, and a lot of times people they find it difficult to change. They don't want to change. Sometimes people don't want to change. Sometimes people find it really, really hard because they don't want to apologize. If we have been in situations where we've done things to harm other people, and sometimes as a result of the pain that we've experienced, whether it's socially, we've internalized stuff socially around racism, maybe it's stuff that's gone on within our families that we've internalized, and we've harmed other people as a result of what was done to us, whether it's family or externally. We don't want to make those amends to people. We don't want to make amends to our family members where family members have behaved in certain ways that have been abusive or dysfunctional, destructive, and they don't, we don't want to apologize to those people. We don't want to make amends for our behavior. They're stuck in the ego. They're stuck in the ego. They're stuck in the whole grandiosity of being right, and they don't want to make amends. And actually, sometimes what's underneath a lot of that grandiosity is a lot of shame. A lot of shame. And I see this, when the clients that I work with, I hear this a lot from clients that talk about really painful family dynamics, particularly with parents. And my parents' generation, they went through a lot of trauma and stuff themselves. Okay, so they find it difficult to kind of to talk about a lot of their stuff anyway. But I hear a lot from my clients as well that their parents, they don't want to admit, they don't want to make any type of amend, and they assume that position that, well, I'm the one that's older than you, therefore it doesn't matter what I've done to you, I'm not going to apologise because I'm older than you, I'm the adult, therefore I can do what I want, I can say what I want, and the children just supposed to suck it up and take it. Okay, so then what happens is they lie. They don't want to take responsibility for the truth about how they treated their children, how they treated other family members, and that they don't want to change because they don't want to have to deal with the responsibility of what comes with the truth. They don't want to make amends because they think that somehow being vulnerable in that way and taking responsibility is somehow gonna they don't want their ego to be bruised, so they keep their mouth shut. They don't want to deal with it. And so that puts the other person who was wronged in a very difficult position, because then you then have to make the decision, do you want to maintain a relationship with this person, or are you going to set boundaries with this person because that person is not taking responsibility for themselves? And then it creates that very difficult position where you're thinking about your own integrity and your own boundaries and your own self-respect when you've got this other person who's behaving some sort of type of way. Okay, and this is where it comes on to number 2, where I talk about rewards in families. Some people lie. Okay, black people lie in their families because they're rewarded for it, and the reward is that they get to stay in the family dynamic, even if the family is dysfunctional. They're being rewarded by it, by the parents or other family members, for keeping their mouth shut. Okay, they get to stay in that unit because the family doesn't want to be broken up. The family dynamics are there to hold everything in place. The family dynamics are there to hold everybody in place. But there are things tied to that, meaning that you're not allowed to say certain things. You're not allowed to do certain things. Hi, thanks for joining. Hi, Emily. They're not allowed to join. They're not allowed to say certain things. Okay, so family members are rewarded for keeping their mouth shut, for enabling the people that are doing the dysfunctional behaviours. Okay, so family members are going to lie, and they don't necessarily say things out loud to lie, but even their silence is still a lie. Okay, silence is still a lie. So those family members then, they get rewarded for doing this because they know that if they speak up, maybe they're going to get abandoned as well. Okay, they're going to be abandoned as well by the other family members, and they're afraid of being abandoned by other family members, so they keep their mouth shut and allow whatever abuse and dysfunction is going on. They do that. And the unfortunate thing for us as a community is that we've been taught under the system that speaking the truth about what's going on for us, okay, is not accepted. We've been taught to swallow our pain. We've been taught to keep quiet under the system of racism. We've been taught to swallow our pain, to not share what's really, really going on for us. So all of that stuff, we hold on to it. We hold on to it because we know that if we talk up, then something's going to happen to us. And if we think about how our ancestors were treated as well on the plantations that were enslaved, again, they also had to lie. They also had to lie to themselves about the pain they were in, about what was going on, because if they talk, it could mean that people get killed, people get murdered, people get sent away from their family members, and all the rest of it. So we've been taught as a community to deny ourselves, to lie about who we are, to lie about what's going on for us, how we feel, and so it almost becomes like a survival thing, almost. It almost becomes like a survival thing, and we've internalized all of that, all of the different ways and the different reasons that we lie as a community. That is all about trying to stay in situations, not being abandoned. It's about not being abandoned, not being rejected. It's about not being abandoned, not being rejected, and and this also happens with. I did a class with my. In my mastermind this week or last Sunday about racial gatekeeping, and this is one of the things that came up. Now, racial gatekeeping is when black people are put in positions of power. Okay, say as an example, it might be in the workplace. It might be somebody that's put in a position of power. They haven't really got any power, but they're put there to keep the other black people, the other people of colour in check. Okay, so these are going to be the people. Let's say Priti Patel as an example. She's an example in politics. Who was a racial gatekeeper. Okay, she would say all of the things that people please white people, that these people want to hear. She's gonna somehow she maybe thinks that she's going to be rewarded for it. It creates like a false sense of safety that if she says all these things, the system is going to be really happy that she's saying all of these things, because it's not coming from a white person. Therefore, it's easy to gaslight other people of color, because they can say, well, look, well, she's saying it. Somebody non-white is saying all of these things that you're complaining about, and so it must be okay then. So that racial gatekeeping is another form of lies. Okay, it's another form of lies. It's another way that we lie to ourselves, because we think that somehow we're going to get rewarded for it. We're going to get rewarded, whether it's via the workplace or via relationships within family or whatever it is. So we think we're going to get more acceptance by doing that. So that is another reason why we as black people, we lie, and think about it, because it does come in it comes in multiple different forms. So think about the ways that you omit or you actively lie to yourself about things that are happening because of other things that are going on. Okay, because of other things that are going on, because you don't want to face things for yourself. You don't want to take responsibility for what it means to tell the truth. Okay, and telling the truth is hard. Telling the truth about what's going on for you as a black person is hard, because we are so conditioned to keep our mouth shut. We're so conditioned not to upset white people, not to upset other people that don't want to upset the whole the way that the system operates. We don't want to upset the equilibrium, because it could be bad for all of us, quote unquote. It could be bad for all of us if one person speaks up. We've been trained that way. That's how the system wants us to be that way. So whether it is within the families or whether it is externally, we've been trained that way. So it becomes very, very difficult for us to speak up and say what we actually really need. And it creates a situation where a lot of us spend a lot of our time suffering and unhappy, because we've been trained. We don't know how to speak up. We don't know how to speak up. We've been trained to keep quiet, and it our life then becomes very, very difficult in terms of feeling that we have to people please people all the time, because we don't know how to speak up, and then we just get resentful. We just get resentful. The third reason why black people lie is because we can get overwhelmed by the truth. Okay, the truth, it triggers so much vulnerability in us. It creates so much vulnerability that we feel like, what, I can't tell the truth about what happened to me, because if I tell the truth about what happened to me, I'm going to feel a certain type of way. I'm going to feel shame. I'm going to feel rage. I'm going to be overwhelmed with grief. I'm going to feel sad. I'm going to feel all of these things, and I don't want to feel those things. I don't want to feel anything. Okay? I don't want to feel anything. So we lie to ourselves about what's going on, because we don't want to be overwhelmed by the truth. I remember when I first started doing a lot of this work, and I really started to share a lot of the stuff that was going on for me internally, stuff that I hadn't shared with anyone for years. And there were so many times where I would start crying about something, and I was just so afraid that if I started crying, that I wouldn't be able to stop. Okay, I was so afraid of being really honest about how I felt about something, because I thought if I allow these tears to start flowing, I'm just not going to be able to stop. The other end of the spectrum of that is if I started allowing myself to feel angry about something, that I would go and murder somebody, because I just felt so enraged. I felt so enraged that I wouldn't know what to do with the anger. And so and a lot of us don't know what to do with our anger. Okay, a lot of us don't know what to do with our anger. We don't know what to do with our feelings, and because we don't have a healthy relationship with our feelings, okay, we lie to ourselves about how we feel. We don't tell our family members, we don't tell our partners, we don't tell our children, we can't tell people in the workplace, because and what's happened over time is that as a community we end up holding so much stuff. Some of it may be from our lifetime, but it's also about remembering that we're also holding stuff for our ancestors as well. A lot of the anger that we're feeling when we talk about certain things is historic. It's not necessarily what's happened in your life. It's stuff that our ancestors have passed down through our tissues and our DNA. Their rage and their anger and their sadness and their grief. And that's why it's important to remember that when we grieve and when we do this work, we're also doing it for our ancestors that didn't have a voice, that didn't have the space, that didn't have a therapist, that didn't have recovery, that didn't have, whatever, that didn't have the space, that didn't have the internet where they could vent and talk and speak the truth. We have to be willing to do that. We have to be willing to do that. Whether it is the tears, and this is something that I encourage a lot. At the moment we're doing I'm doing a group therapy process on a Thursday evening. We're using this book, The Black Woman Millionaire, to anchor the conversations, but it is a group therapy session, and we're also talking about money trauma, and we're talking about anything to do with finances and the emotions and the feelings that are attached, the anxiety and everything that is attached to money. It's not specifically a group where we're going to be talking about practical things. Those things will come up every now and then, but the focus of the group is really about your financial therapy and what's happened to us historically as black people, and how our bodies were used as commodity for capitalism. Okay, so we're going to be talking about what does that mean for us in terms of how we feel about our bodies, and one of the things that is encouraged in the group is the ability to actually tell the truth about what that is, or even explore the truth, because for a lot of us doing this work, the money trauma work, we'll be having those conversations with ourselves for the first time. We're going to be having those conversations with ourselves for the first time, because a lot of us don't really understand that there's a link between the trauma that we experience and the money that we're trying to earn and manifest in this lifetime. So really being able to be honest with ourselves and talk about the connection with all of those things is an important part of this process. If you're interested in joining me for the study circle on Thursday evenings, you can click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. Okay, so that's that part of it is a really important part of owning the fact that we lie to ourselves, because we don't want to be overwhelmed by the truth and the feelings around the link between what happened to us historically and how that's impacted us now. One of the exercises that I did last week, which was actually quite profound when I think about it, is having them actually look at, I did a little presentation on some stuff around money trauma, and one of the slides was just of English money, and I asked the group to kind of just think and just pause for a minute and just marinate on the fact that what was coming up for them in their body, what did they feel, what were they experiencing, just thinking about the concept of money and the fact that the Queen's head is on the British pound, and thinking about the fact that the wealth, a lot of the wealth that came from that is basically the reason why Britain is so wealthy is because of what they did to our ancestors. And what I understand is that Jamaica was one of the most profitable colonies that they enslaved, and so my ancestors worked for free on that plantation for 240 years. And so for me to have a £10 note in my hand with the Queen's head on it, I had to really dig deep and really think about that. What does that mean for me? What does that mean for me? What comes up in my body? And I realized actually in doing that exercise, when I was researching it before I actually did it with the group, is that there's an emotional detachment. Okay, there's an emotional detachment to that money because of what's happened to my ancestors. There's an emotional detachment, and so then begs the question: if we think about the manifestation of money, if we think about the law of attraction and the law of vibration and all of those things that our ancestors taught us, and how money is really energy, how am I denying myself the ability to attract money, to make money, to manifest money, to bring money in abundance into my life, if I've had to emotionally detach, okay, and not tell the truth about what it means to have that £10 or £20 note in my hand with the Queen's head on it? If I'm detached from the feelings that were associated with money and not telling the truth, not able to tell the truth, I didn't even know that's how I felt until I did the exercise. If I can't tell the truth about that, what is then going to be the impact of my ability to manifest money, or your ability to manifest money? This is deep. So this is some deep stuff. So when we talk about black people not being able to tell the truth. This is what I'm talking about. We have to think about what is the cultural context of that conversation. Okay, what is the cultural context of how you feel about money, how you feel about that dynamic and the impact that it has on your life? Because the way that we deny and don't understand what's going on for us, those denials and all of those things, in a way we're trying to protect. I realize now that was going on unconsciously, and that was my way of trying to protect myself, of really feeling the pain of what that meant, what that Queen's Head meant on that note. Okay, so what does that mean for you? And what does that mean for you? And how can then telling the truth, how can that change the energy? Okay, how can that change the energy of what's going on for you by telling the truth? How can telling the truth do that? And what does telling the truth look like? For me, telling the truth about what's going on means outing it, means saying it out loud. It means getting honest with myself. It means allowing myself to feel the pain, to feel the anger, to feel the grief about the money and the wealth that my ancestors lost, okay, because they were bullied and tortured, okay, into a system that meant that they had to work for free for 240 years. Okay, that's what telling the truth means. Okay, that's what telling the truth means. And so, yes, I can be overwhelmed by the truth. I can be overwhelmed by the feelings that may come up around this, but it's also going to free me. It's going to free me to be able to make a different decision about what happens in my life. And this is the thing that is so destructive about when we as a community tell these lies to ourselves, because then you get trapped in it, you get stuck in it, and you can't move forward. Okay, there is no microwave healing when it comes to this stuff. You have to be willing to tell the truth. If you can't tell the truth, then you're always going to be stuck. You're always going to be stuck in a situation that you're in, because you think that you can, let me just do some affirmations, or, let me just try and stay in self-will. Stay in self-will. I can make this happen by trying to control everything that's going on. Okay, and that it just doesn't work like that. You have to, at an energetic level, you have to change the vibration, your vibration around things, and that means telling the truth. That means allowing your feelings to be processed, allowing them to come out. That means sharing your what's going on for you in community, which is why I have the group that I have on the Thursdays, because we are starting to have those conversations, those honest conversations around money. Okay, it's really, really important. So that's number 3. Okay, being overwhelmed by the truth, by being overwhelmed by your feelings. Okay, number 4, the 4th reason why black people lie is fear of expansion. Okay, it's fear of expansion. Just the idea of being bigger. I'm not talking about being physically bigger. I'm talking about being emotionally bigger. I'm talking about being expansive in terms of your spiritual self, being your bigger self, your higher self, your spiritual self. A lot of times we're afraid of that part of ourselves because it does come with responsibility, and also so many of us are so trapped in a lot of shame that the fear of being visible and being bigger and being our higher self is terrifying for a lot of us. And I can say that that was me. That was me. Being able to show up and be visible and do the things that are really going to be in your benefit means that you have to deal with the fear of people not liking what you do and what you say. You have to deal with the fact that people might criticize you and judge you for doing certain things or for doing the right thing. People are going to judge you for speaking out against stuff that they've been doing. It's like I was saying before about the rewards within families or at work or whatever, And when you're expansing, when you sort of step into being expansive, okay, it just means that you're on a different frequency. You're on a different frequency, and sometimes you just have to let other people, those people that are criticizing you, those people that want to cuss you out, those people that want to say who do you think you are and all of that kind of stuff. You have to let those people just do their thing. You just have to let those people get on with whatever they're doing, and you have to leave them where they are, because your purpose is for you. It's not for other people. Sometimes you can't take other people, and I think that's probably one of the most painful things about doing this work, is that when you see the rewards of what it means to sort of step into your integrity and all of that, that can be a really, really beautiful thing for you to be able to experience that. And of course you want to take other people with you. You want to take your family members with you. You want to take those close to you with you. You want to take your children with you. But you can't take everyone with you, because not everybody wants to do this work. That's the difficult thing. And this is another thing about why it's important not to lie to yourself, because other people might not be in the same place as you are in terms of being ready to step into the responsibility of what it means to tell the truth about what you need, about telling the truth about where they are in terms of their expansion. Your expansion doesn't mean that everybody else is going to expand around you. They're just not. Some people are not ready. Some people just point blank don't want to. Some people are just, this is real talk, some people are just used to suffering, and they don't want to move. They don't want to move out of there, because it's a lot easier in some respects to stay in the suffering, to stay in the complaining, to stay in the blame, okay, of blaming other people, because then it means that they don't have to grow up, they don't have to take responsibility for themselves, and they don't have to take any responsibility. And some, unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to show up and be responsible. They don't want to show up and be responsible, and so they will say things to you, okay, because it triggers their own shame about what they're not doing. And you're not doing it to shame them, you're just doing it for your own integrity. But you have to accept that that's the story, the narrative that some people are going to say about you, because they want to stay stuck in their own lie. They want to stay stuck in their own denial, because that's where they feel safe. And that doesn't mean you have to judge them. That's just where they are. And sometimes you just have to leave those people where they are, because if you don't, then it's going to end up holding you back. And it doesn't mean that you think that you're better than them. You're just in a different space. You're just in a different space, and you can't drag those people. You can't drag other people through their healing, because they don't want it. And it ends up just damaging you. So sometimes you have to make a decision about staying in the truth, okay? You have to make a decision about staying in the truth around your own integrity and moving forward. It means you have to find a new tribe. You have to find a new tribe, because sometimes, and this is real talk, and I've kind of experienced this, sometimes when you're ready to tell the truth about things, it can be quite lonely. When you're ready to tell the truth about certain things, sometimes it can be a lonely place, because not everybody wants to go that deep, that level. People say, oh yeah, I want you to tell the truth, I want you to be on. People can tell a good story about honesty, but there are very few, there's a lesser percentage of people that are really willing to stand in what that really means, because there's a huge responsibility that comes with telling the truth and standing in that truth and living your life from that position. That's a completely different conversation, and a lot of people don't want to do it. A lot of people don't want to do it because of the responsibility that comes with it. But in order for our community to be able to move forward, in order for our community to be able to step into what it really means to feel to be liberated, we have to be willing to step into that truth at an individual level first, before it can happen as a community. Okay, we have to be willing to step into that truth first individually before we can do anything as a community. So you have to really, really ask yourself, are you really, really ready? Okay, are you really, really ready to expand into your higher self? And what does that mean for you? Okay, because saying it and doing it is two different things. For me, it means constantly being around other people that are also telling the truth. That means being honest with my therapist. Okay, it means being honest at recovery meetings. It means giving myself permission to pause and spend time in nature and in meditation, because it's in those moments of stillness and solitude that I can hear the truth. The reason why so many of us are so busy, okay, you're busy because you don't want to sit and listen to the truth. You don't want to hear your truth. You don't want to hear the truth, and that's why if you're always busy doing something, if you're always running around, if you always got stuff to do, you can't hear anything. You can't hear your higher power. You can't hear your higher self. You can't hear your ancestors making suggestions about things, telling you about things, and you can't hear your gut. You can't hear none of that if you're always busy doing stuff. So this is the reason why I'm so my daily self-care has to be involved with that type of thing, with the slowing down and the pausing and having moments of solitude. It doesn't necessarily mean I get loads and loads of time to do all of this stuff, but it's about being mindful. I can meditate and be mindful and do meditation when I'm washing up or hanging out laundry or whatever, but it's giving myself permission to go inward and to be present and to pause and doing all of those things. That is what where the truth comes in. That's where the truth can reveal itself, when you're doing that. Okay, so you really have to really think about your, are you in a position where, where you fear expansion? Okay, are you in a position where you fear expansion, where you fear being bigger than where you are at the moment? So that fear of expansion means that you continue to lie to yourself because being small feels safer for you. And this is something that you also need to think about, because when I talk about expansion, sometimes the environments that we're in it's not safe for us to expand. So you have to pick the spaces where you choose to expand. You have to find a safe space for you to do that expansion. As I said before, for me, it's therapy. I've got different groups, different environments, and people that I phone that I trust, that will help me to nurture that expansion. If you're around people that are continuing to lie to themselves about who they are, what they do, how they're taking care of themselves, how they, are they being, because people can talk a good story, but are they actually doing it? People can talk about their self-care and all this, but are they actually doing it? Okay, people can talk a good story, so you've got to be, don't listen to what people say. Look at what they do. Okay, that's one way that you can start to tell the truth to yourself as a black person. Stop listening to what people say and look at what people do. Look at how people behave. Can you trust that? Do you believe that? Okay, do you believe that? That's where your own expansion is going to start to be nurtured, when you're around your other people that are also expanding, that are open to growth, that are willing to get vulnerable, that are willing to speak their own truth. One of the things that made it easier for me to start speaking my own truth is being in spaces where other people were also telling the truth. Okay, because sometimes when you're not used to telling the truth, it can feel really quite frightening, and I know that was my experience. It was really painful and scary for me to begin to tell the truth, because I've been so programmed to keep my mouth shut. But over time, over the years, I had to learn how to tell the truth. I had to learn about being able to stand in my truth without being impacted by what other people, by wanting to revert to going back to not telling the truth because of what was happening externally. I had to relearn how to tell the truth, and as black people, as a community, we need to learn again now how to start telling the truth, like I said before, because we have been trained to lie about who we are, because we had to do it for survival. We've had to learn how to lie for survival. But our liberation is in learning how to speak the truth. But you have to be discerning about where you speak that truth and how you speak that truth. That's the difference now. You've got to find a space to be able to do that. Okay, so that's number 3. So the last one, that was number 4. The 5th and final reason why black people lie, okay, is to maintain control. Okay, they want people to have a certain perception of who they are, and maybe, and this is where the shame conversation comes in again. So many of us have got so much shame about who we are that we lie to ourselves because we want other people to believe the lie that we tell ourselves. We lie to ourselves, so therefore it's easier for us to lie to other people about who we are, because we're really deep down, we don't like ourselves, and we're afraid that other people are going to see that lie that we tell ourselves. That other person's going to see that maybe you think that you're broken and you're wounded, or you're a certain type of way, and you're afraid that other people are going to see that part of you. You don't have any acceptance about who you are, so you have to lie to yourself just so that you can exist around other people. You lie to yourself because you want a specific outcome from the external person. So you lie to yourself so that you can lie to that person about who you are, so then you can get the outcome that you want. But that's not going to last long term, because when you tell one lie, you need another lie to cover it up, and another lie to cover it up, and another lie to cover it up, and then you can't remember what the lie that you told in the first place. And that just creates more stress for you, and it creates mistrust in the other person, because the other person, your external environment can't trust anything you say or do, and you lose respect. You can't expect other people to respect you if you're lying to yourself. think about the people that are in your circle at the moment, or that are even in your family, that are lying to themselves, whether consciously or unconsciously. Do you respect those people? Can you really respect those people if they're lying to themselves? You can't, because there's no integrity. There's no integrity. Okay, so you can't respect those people. But those people, like I said, will continue to lie to themselves so that they can lie to you. And if you call them out on their lie, they will gaslight you. Okay, they will gaslight you, because that's their defense mechanism around believing their own lies. Okay, they will gaslight you because that's how they can continue to convince themselves, okay, of that lie. The only way they can stay in it is to try and make you feel like you're crazy for thinking that, for calling them out. But if you're aware and you're grounded in your own integrity, you know that person's gaslighting you. You know that person is telling lies. It doesn't mean to say you have to get into it with them, because sometimes the most kindest thing that you can do, the most compassionate thing that you can do with people that are committed to their own lies is to just walk away. Let them sit with their own lies, because the minute you get into a conversation with them and you start they're gaslighting you and you're firing back and it just becomes messy. And then you're using up all of this energy for what? You're using up all of this energy for what? If you know that what you're saying is true, you can just be sometimes the most powerful way of dealing with people that are so committed to their own lies is actually silence. Is don't say anything, because sometimes the people will get into the defense mode, and the more that they over talk and they start over explaining, and they're just digging a bigger and bigger hole for themselves. And so sometimes what's needed with these people is just compassion, because they believe their own lies. They need to believe their own lies in order for them to feel like they exist, or for them to feel like they're somebody, and they don't feel worthy. They don't feel that comes from a place of unworthiness. I have to lie about who I am to other people because I don't accept myself. That's what's underneath all of that behavior. I don't accept myself. I don't think I'm a good person. I don't think I'm worthy of anything. Therefore, I'm going to have to lie to myself, and I'm going to lie to the people externally, because otherwise they're going to see me they're going to see that I'm actually a really bad person inside. So I'm going to lie and tell people this, that and the other, so that I don't have to sit with the fact that I'm a bad person. But long term, it's not going to get you anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere by doing this. And long term, it just compounds the shame. It compounds the shame. It compounds all of the negative things that you already feel about yourself. You're just putting more fuel on that, on top of that unworthiness. Okay, you're just putting more fuel on top of that unworthiness, so it doesn't work. So what I would say around all of the lies and all of the things that I've shared about today, the other side of that is courage. Okay, the other side of that is courage. It's having the courage to first and foremost be honest with yourself, because you can't be honest with nobody else until you're first honest with yourself. Okay, and actually an easy way to start telling the truth is to keep a journal, whether it's online or whether it's not literally online for everyone to watch, but you do have online journals. You can there's apps as well, or you can do it just old school, just do it writing in a book. Start to tell your truth, start to speak the truth to yourself first in your writing. That's how I started. And when you start to tell the truth to yourself, then in writing out that stuff, you'll start to feel things and understand things. Or maybe you go the opposite direction. Maybe you go into more denial. It might become too painful for you to start writing out that stuff and doing it yourself. To do it on your own is quite difficult. So what makes more sense is for you to find a safe space where you can start to have honest conversations with somebody else. And it will be hard, and I found it excruciating when I first started doing that. I found it so painful starting to tell stuff to my therapist and all the rest of it. But now being a therapist myself and having to sit in that position where you know, I have people sitting in the chair telling me stuff that they've never told anyone, and have to and to hold that space for them, for me now is a real honor for me to do that for them, and to do it without judgment, and to hold the space with compassion and all of that. You know, for me, that's a really humbling place to be, and I know how liberating that can be. I understand how liberating that can be, to be able to share that with somebody and have somebody else hold that space for me and not judge me for that. I know how beautiful that is. So for me to be able to do that for others, that's why I do it, because I understand how liberating it is. It's freeing, you know. But that's where you have to start, because without that honesty, you're not going to be able to move on. You're not going, all those things that you say you want, if you're not being honest with yourself, you ain't going to have those things. Or if you do get those things, you're not going to be happy, because at the end of the day, you haven't got the integrity. It's not rooted in integrity. So having those things without that self-honesty is not going to give you the emotional liberation that you need. Okay, so it's about really practicing to begin to tell the truth. So I'll leave it there. So those are the 5 reasons why black people lie. Okay, the first one is the responsibility of the truth. The second one is they get rewarded for lying. Number 3 is being overwhelmed by the truth. You think that if you feel your feelings that you won't be able to stop. Next one, number 4, is fear of expansion. And number 5 is maintaining controlling your self-perception. Okay, if there's anything that I've shared in this live stream today that you found useful, or you think somebody else might find useful, you know, pay it forward, share it with somebody else you think that they're going to get something out of it. Okay, if you would like to join me for the study circle on Thursdays, okay, we are studying The Black Woman Millionaire. It's like group therapy as well. We're talking about money trauma, financial therapy, all of that stuff. My own therapeutic skills and stuff are going to come in to hold us as we read the book live. Full details of what that's about as well, you can find it at heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. Thank you so much for joining me today. And again, if you've got any questions about anything that I've shared today that you don't want to put in the comments, you want to email me directly, you can send me a DM, or you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you next time. Okay, take care everyone. Bye.